All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I'm your tour guide around SWAC. See what's coming at you, and it's the championship week, man. It's SWAC Championship Game this weekend, so this is the culmination of the SWAC season. Got the Celebration Bowl coming after this, and so SWAC football is coming to its close, and this is the last game, to determine the SWAC champ. We're also going to talk about the preseason. The postseason All SWAC honors were announced today, so we'll run through that, and we'll talk about that, and we're going to preview the game, and from then on, we'll just continue to kind of wrap up the season over the next few shows. Of course, Sunday we'll have our championship game recap and whatever else come down the pipe. Wednesday, we'll drop our my East Division recap. I'll go through my picks and everything, how that turned out. And then Sunday we'll do the West Division. Tomorrow, SWAC Smoke live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss that. Hit the socials. They're on the screen, as you know. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76. Like the videos and share them, man. Comment. Let me know how you feel about this SWAC season, and subscribe, please, if you haven't done so already. If you have subscribed, then thank you very much. I definitely appreciate it. If not, man, go ahead and hit that button, man. Go ahead and subscribe, because we do some fun things here, so don't miss out. So let's go ahead and start off with the All SWAC honors. We'll talk about the All SWAC teams, and all in all, not a bad list. Maybe one or two guys who who a lot of people, feel may have been snubbed, but, honestly, there's nobody that you can, a lot of these guys, I don't think you can leave off. I don't really see anybody who didn't deserve to be there. So, sometimes you have guys who maybe did not have their greatest season. That can be something, but I think there's a couple selections that can probably be talked about as being, I don't say controversial, but as being maybe not the best choice. But we'll talk about all that as we go. Let's jump into it, man. First and foremost, the offensive player of the year, of course, Shedeur Sanders. That's no surprise at all. He led JSU to their first undefeated season in program history. He had 7 games with 3+ touchdowns through the air this season to go along with 4 300-yard passing games. He set a single season school record for touchdowns with 32, completions 284, and he passed for 3,083 yards. He ran for a career high 5 touchdowns. He leads the SWAC in completion percentage, passing yards, and touchdowns. He set a career high with 438 yards through the air against Valley, and threw a career high 5 touchdowns twice, once against Florida A&M and once against Bethune-Cookman. The defensive player of the year, again, no surprise. Maybe you could have went with Ronnie Thomas from Valley, but Aubrey Miller's a great choice. I've been saying it week in and week out. That's an NFL guy, man. If you're building a linebacker core, you definitely want him at the center of it. He had 98 tackles on the season, 53 solo, 1 sack, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 4 quarterback hits, 5 pass breakups, and 1 touchdown on the season. He recorded 8+ tackles in a game 7 times this season, including 4 10+ tackle games. He tied a career high with 19 tackles against Texas Southern. During the season opener, he had 9 tackles and returned a fumble 19 yards for a touchdown against Florida A&M. I think, like I said, this is neither one of these choices obviously is a bad choice. And honestly, on the offensive side, really nobody else who you could even really make a lot of a lot of noise about. Maybe Xavier Smith, but you're never gonna go against a guy like Shedeur that's putting up the numbers that he put up. Aubrey Miller, again, I think that's a solid choice. That's my choice. Only guys I really can say who I wouldn't mind if they had won it would be like Ronnie Thomas from Valley or Bubba Adams from Alabama State. He had a tremendous season this year, over 100 tackles. and you know, it was a really key cog in that defense. But you can't go wrong with Aubrey Miller, man. That's you know, that's thumper. You can't go wrong with that. The newcomer of the year, again, no surprise here, Jarvion Howard. He was named SWAC newcomer of the week twice this season. He leads the league in rushing yards with 1,273. He ranked fourth in scoring with 78 points. He tied 20th. He tied 20th in the FCS with 12 rushing touchdowns, and he's currently ranked 8th in FCS in rushing yardage. He rushed for a season high 299 yards and 4 touchdowns against Pine Bluff. He tallied 199 yards and a touchdown on the ground against Stephen F. Austin. He contributed 5 games of 100 yards or more this past season, and that's guys a load to bring down, man. If you ever watch him run, you know the defense had to put in work to get him on the ground. So again, solid choice, can't go wrong with that. The freshman of the year is Kevin Coleman from Jackson State. He caught 24 passes for 324 yards and 1 touchdown. He averaged 25.3 yards per return on kickoffs and 8.7 yards on return on punts. He contributed 2+ receptions in the game 9 times this season, while catching 2 passes for 76 yards, including a career-long 64-yard reception against Valley. He averaged 47 yards on 2 kickoff returns, including a career-long 68 against Alabama A&M. If there's any selection that I think some people may not agree with, is probably this one. Adrian Maddox is a guy from Alabama State who a lot of people feel, you know, probably should have got this honor. You know, he's a guy who's up for the FCS Freshman of the Year award, so you would expect a guy like that to be maybe, you know, be considered, you know. And I mean, he didn't even make any all-conference team, so if there's a snub, I would probably say him. You know, he had pretty solid numbers on the season as a freshman on a very good defense. But you know, again, you really can't go wrong with these choices. Coach of the year, obviously, is Coach Prime, Coach Deion Sanders. He led JSU to a first 11-0 season in school history. He completed down the first undefeated regular season by a team since 1991, Alabama State. The Tigers, they tallied 10 wins by 10+ points on the season. They held 10 opponents to 14 points or less. The defense also leads the FCS with 7 defensive categories. JSU has won 17 consecutive SWAC games and 19 games overall, 19 straight games overall against SWAC opponents. So, you know, just, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, again, what other guys putting up that kind of production? So, all good choices. Looking at the first team offense, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, running back, Jarvion Howard, and Syvion Wilkerson from Jackson State and Alcorn, respectively. Offensive lineman, Mark Evans from Pine Bluff, Drake Sinners from Texas Southern, Tyler Brown from Jackson State, Dallas Black from Southern, and Jalen Goss from Florida A&M. Receivers, Xavier Smith and Dallas Daniels, Smith from FAMU, Daniels from Jackson State, and tight end Kamari Averett from Bethune-Cookman. I don't see any, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, when you have a choice, you know, have a list like this, you can always, you know, move people around. But I don't really see any glaring people who should not be on the first team offense. Receivers can, you know, be swapped around. You know, if you want to swap a guy that's on second for a guy on first, you know, I can see, you know, a guy like Shane Hooks maybe getting first team. But, you know, other than that, there's not, you know, the running backs are probably who they should be. You know, the quarterback, obviously, offensive lineman, they're all top notch. So yeah, I think those are all solid choices. First team defense, Isaiah Land, defensive lineman, Florida A&M, Malachi Bailey, defensive lineman, Alcorn, Kamari Stevens, FAMU defensive lineman, and Niles Gaddy from Jackson State rounds out the defensive line. Linebackers, Aubrey Miller, Jackson State, Ronnie Thomas, Mississippi Valley, and Bubba Adams from Alabama State. Again, all good choices. Defensive backs, Isaiah Hamilton, no question. Corion Harris from Southern, again, really good choice. Guy, you know, had 4 interceptions on the season and was one of the top tacklers on Southern defense. Defensive back, Mari Hill Robinson, another playmaker. Cameron Silman Craig from Jackson State, another guy who can, you know, thump and, you know, and just get there and make plays. So I don't have any issue with anybody on this list, man. I mean, you know, I want to find an issue, but I don't really have one. Special teams, Romo Martinez from FAMU, solid kicker. Chris Fadul, again, solid punter from FAMU. Darnell Dees from Bethune-Cookman, returner. Yeah, I talk about this guy all year long. He definitely earned that recognition. Long snapper, Jason Longcore from Alcorn. You know, obviously, if there's one position I can't say somebody shouldn't be there, is long snapper. But you know, I mean, Alcorn special teams really weren't great, but I don't think that was an issue of the snapper. I think the specialists weren't really producing the way they needed to this season. So, you know, I mean, you know, he earned his spot. Second team offense, Jeremy Musa, quarterback, FAMU. Kayvon Britton, Pine Bluff, running back, and running back Donovan Eaglin from Alabama A&M. Offensive lineman Jeremiah Stafford from Southern, Jonathan Williams, Alabama A&M. Will Reddy, Alcorn, Cameron Coleman, Florida A&M, and TJ Yarborough from Alcorn. Receivers Shane Hooks, Jackson State, and Jamari Sharif from FAMU. Tight end DJ Stevens, Jackson State. You know, honestly, as far as the quarterback go, I don't think there was a lot of guys who really had tremendous seasons. So Musa had a really solid season after that first, you know, after those he had a good game against North Carolina for a half, and he had a rough Jackson State game, but he got better week in and week out. And obviously having two guys at receiver on your team, on all conference first, second team. You know, you got guys that you can get the ball to, and I think he did a good job of doing that. And you know, I mean, a quarterback that helps lead a team to 9 straight wins is never going to be a slouch. Other than that, I think the quarterback play was kind of iffy this season. You know, it was a lot of guys who were new. So you know, I think maybe quarterback play will be better next season. But the guys who made it, the two quarterbacks who made it, I don't have. That's like the third time I don't have a problem with any of those choices. Second team defense, Sunday Otter Anderson from Grambling, Taj Brown from Southern, Justin Reagan from Jackson State, Zarion Hayes from Alabama A&M, Claudine Cherilus, linebacker from Alcorn, Lewis Matthews, Alcorn, Grambling linebacker, Isaiah Major, FAMU linebacker, defensive back, Javon Morgan, FAMU, Isaiah Bolden, Jackson State, Urshad Davis, Alabama State, and B.J. Bowler, Florida A&M. You know, these have been some really solid guys, man. You know what I mean? That defensive line, I think, are all really good guys. You know, they all can, you know, rush the passer. They all have, you know, pretty good seasons. The linebacking core is solid. I guess. I mean, you know, it's hard to say, you know, sometimes with secondary guys, you know, if somebody should have been there. I mean, Isaiah Bolden had a solid season. I mean, he had 38 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. He did, and he had 5 pass breakups on the season. So. I mean, those are solid numbers, but maybe, you know, you slide that guy off and you put Maddox in that spot. You know, if that was one spot, I would say, I mean, Bolden's a great kick returner. I think he's a better kick returner than a DB. There's no knock, but I think, you know, if you're gonna slide anybody off, I would slide him. But other than that, I don't have any issue with that. The specialist, Alejandro Mata from Jackson State, place kicker. Great season, man. Really, really solid. Automatic, damn near. Josh Sanchez, punter from Pine Bluff. Return specialist, Siobhan Xavier Lewis from Texas Southern. Guy had a couple huge returns during the season. Definitely was a playmaker for the return game for Texas Southern. Put that offense in a lot of good field position opportunities. And long snapper Braxton Blackwell from Southern. Being a Southern fan, you know, I watched this team. I watched this guy. He only had 1 or 2 bad snaps all season. So, you know, being a guy that's new to the program and, you know, new to the specialist that he's working with, I thought he handled that job pretty well. Southern got, I think, a punt and a kick block this season. So, I don't think necessarily those were the snap fault, but I can't really find fault with any of these choices. Everybody who made it, deserved to be there. Obviously, you can find a guy who you think should have been there. Maybe some guys who had good seasons but not good enough. Maybe they can, do a little bit of work next season and find themselves on a preseason All SWAC team. I'm gonna put in the description the video that I had for my preseason All SWAC team, and we'll match it up, and we'll go back and look later and see how I did with that. So that's something that I can have a little homework with, but you can check that video out if you didn't see it. I'm gonna put it in the description, and it'll be in the box at the end of the video. So make sure to check that out. No, man, let's go ahead and get to what most people are here for, and that's the SWAC Championship Game. I already steamrolled Southern once, so there's not a lot of drama in this game. Southern had to have a miracle to even get here, so they're not really looking the sweetest. The offense has not been playing that great the last few weeks, but they did what they had to do, and they got the win to get them now. It's up to Southern to make this game be a game. I've honestly, against JSU, the first quarter, Southern defense, first probably quarter and a half, I think Southern defense played really well. You can even say 2 quarters. I mean, they gave up a couple of big plays, but the defense, played fairly well. The offense never really put them in a good spot. The offense missed 2 field goals and had a late fumble when they was driving, and JSU was able to capitalize on 2 of those on that fumble and get a touchdown and make the halftime score 22-0, which basically, just made the game pretty much over. So Southern offensively obviously has to take care of the football. They have to get the passing game going. And you're not going to get that done by dropping back in the pocket and trying to make a pocket passer out of a guy who is not that comfortable at that. You're going to have to get him out the pocket and try to find some things down the field or in the middle of the field. You're going to have to move him around. That's obviously easier said than done against a defense like Jackson State that pretty much swallows up everything. So anything that that I say can be easily countered by Jackson State, and that's why I feel like Southern's going to have to work to make this be a game. I love my Jaguars, but coming off of the last few weeks and basically playing this team a few weeks ago, that taste is still there in a lot of people's mouths. So you don't really have a lot to play for in terms of perception. Southern, I think, is an 18-point underdog, so the game is pretty much being viewed as a blowout. It's up to Southern to make it not be, and the only way that's going to happen is if the offense helps out the defense, because no matter how good your defense is, your offense is not moving the football. Eventually, you're going to wear down, and if you wear down against an offense like Jackson State, they're going to bury you because the defense is going to help them get the ball back and put them in great field position the majority of the time. So looking at these numbers, numbers don't tell the whole story, but looking at the numbers, both of these teams are basically 1 and 2 in a lot of categories. Southern is number 2 in scoring offense, even though they got shut out twice. And that's buoyed by, an 86-point game, but they also had a 50-plus point game against Pine Bluff. They put 45 on Prairie View. They did score 34 against Grambling, although 13 of those came off of defensive scores. But they are offense that can score, but this offense has to be clicking the score. And Jackson State is averaging 37.5 points per game, and they definitely can put points on the board pretty easily if they need to. Defensively, Jackson State leads the league in scoring defense at 10.1 points per game. Southern leads the league in second at 19.8. Total offense, Jackson State first, 448 yards per game, 49 touchdowns. They average 6.1 yards per play. Southern 396 per game, 41 touchdowns. They average 6.3 yards per play. The last 3 or 3 or 4 games, the numbers from Southern have not been good. But you know, they are capable if they can get going. Jackson State doesn't allow you to get going because they lead the league in total defense with 216 yards per game. They've only given up 12 touchdowns and they allow 3.5 yards per play. Southern is second at 288 yards per game. They've given up 26 touchdowns and they've allowed 4.5 yards per play. Those are the top 2 defenses in terms of yards per play. So it's tough to really get a lot going against both of these defenses. But, you know, JSU's offense is definitely more explosive than Southern's. Southern is second in the league in rushing offense at 206 yards per game. They average 5.1 yards per carry. They have 23 touchdowns. Jackson State is sixth at 158 yards per game, 15 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. Jackson State leads the league in rushing defense at 95 yards per game. They allow 2.7 yards per rush and 6 touchdowns. Southern 111 per game, 11 touchdowns, 3.2 yards per carry. You know, Grambling found something that worked against Southern, but you know that was the Floyd Chalk was the first guy to go over 100 yards against Southern all season. So that defense, you know, they found something that worked, but typically Southern's run defense is pretty solid. They're gonna be tested obviously with JSU's running attack, and you know the passing attack from JSU makes it easier for them to run as well because you have to account for a guy like Shador getting out of the pocket. Or, you know, you too concerned with the pass game, they can hit you with runs and they will bust them. So you just have to really be sound in all points of your defense. Passing offense, Jackson State leads the league at 290 yards per game. They have 34 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Southern is sixth at 194 yards per game, 18 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The 3 of the last 4 games, Southern has not passed for 100 yards. So that's definitely an issue that's gonna have to be fixed in this game and fixed right away. Southern is third in pass defense at 177 yards per game. They've allowed 15 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Jackson State 121 yards per game through the air, that leads the league. They've only allowed 6 touchdowns and they have 9 interceptions. Jackson State offensive line really improved from last season to this season. This season, they only have allowed 20 sacks. That's second. Southern is right running 2 in sacks by the defense. Southern is number 1 in the league and number 1 in the country at 43 sacks. JSU is number 2 in the league and number 2 in the country at 41 sacks. So both of these teams can get pressure on the quarterback, and they both do it in kind of similar ways. They don't necessarily have the one guy with 10, 12 sacks. They just have a lot of guys who can get the pressure from all levels of the defense. So I think this is going to be one of them situations where the quarterbacks have to be mindful of where the pressure is, and they have to be able to make something happen. First downs, Jackson State leads the league at 23.8 first downs per game. Southern 19.2 first downs per game. That's fifth. Jackson State is first in opponent first downs at 12.6. Southern second at 17.2. Third down conversion, Southern is first at 43.1%. Jackson State second, 41%. Jackson State defense is first, 22.5%. And Southern is second at 31.3%. Fourth downs, Jackson State is ninth at 39.1. Southern is sixth at 47.1%. Fourth down defense, Southern and Jackson State are pretty neck and neck. Southern at 40%, that's 6. Jackson State is 7th at 41.4. In some individual guys, really quickly for Southern, the run game is led by Bashawn McCray, the quarterback. He's been a really solid runner for Southern offensively this season. He has 637 yards on the season and 7 touchdowns, averaging 5.6 yards per carry. Carl Ligon, 543 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. Gerard Sims, who's injured, he has 408 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kendrick Grimes, 341 yards and 5 touchdowns. Southern has to get the running game going, and that's tough to do against a team like Jackson State. Because if you expect Southern to sit there and just drop dimes all over the field on Jackson State in the pass game. That's not going to work. Southern has to pass the ball well, but they also still have to be able to run the ball. McCray is 120 or 204, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 1,619 yards. Last few weeks, numbers have not been great, so definitely want to kind of make up for that. Cassius Allen, 26 catches, 407 yards, 3 touchdowns. Chandler Whitfield, 20 for 250 and a touchdown. August Pete, 17 for 284 and 3 touchdowns. Defensively, the leading tackler, Jalen Campbell with 74. Corion Harris, 51. Derek Williams, 51. Tackles for loss, Campbell, 14. Lang, 13.5. Brown, 11. Kelby Gibbons, 10. Sacks, Brown, 6.5. Campbell, 6. Gibbons, 5.5. Lang, 4.5. Lewis, 4. Peterson, 3. Harris leads the team with 4 interceptions. Jordan Carter has 2. Chris John Davis has 2. One thing Southern does well is if they do get turnovers, they have been able to turn those into defensive touchdowns. Southern leads the league in defensive touchdowns. So if it may be a case of Southern defense having to scope for Southern to get them on the board, because obviously you cannot get shut out again. That just cannot happen. So by hook or by crook, some way, somehow Southern needs to get some points on the board with any unit on that team needs to be able to get some points on the board. Cyprian Wilkerson leads the offense at 1,039 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. Santee Marshall, 332 yards, 1 touchdown, averages 6 yards per carry. Like I said, Shador has 5 touchdowns on the season, 159 yards. So he's a guy who can get out the pocket if need be, and make plays happen like that. Shador is 284, 405, 3,083 yards, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The passing game, man, there's so many guys. You can't go wrong with any of these guys. Shane Hooks and Dallas Daniels both have 54 catches. They both over 600 yards. Hooks 601, Daniels 632. Hooks has 8 touchdowns. Daniels has 6. You still have guys like Kevin Coleman. Travis Hunter has been coming on, late in the season. A guy like Quay Davis, who is a big time guy, still can be a guy that's available. J.D. Martin, again, these are guys that can really, excuse me, not J.D. Martin, Stevens, DJ Stevens, I'm sorry. DJ Stevens, all SWAC tight end, can make some things happen as well. And the defense, you're going to have to look out for a guy like Aubrey Miller, over 90 tackles. Silman Craig's another guy that can make plays in the backfield and make some things happen. So this defense, that they get it done by swarm. They swarm. So you just have to be aware of everybody on that defense at all times. But obviously, this game comes down to if Southern can make this a game. And for Southern to be able to make this a game, they have to be able to score points. And like I said, it might take a defensive touchdown to get Southern on the board. But some kind of way they have to lead that game with points. If they don't, obviously, you're looking at a huge blowout coming, because JSU did leave some points on the field in that last game. I picked JSU to win the league, and they have not disappointed me this season, and I'm going to pick them to win this game. And I think Southern's going to put on a better effort, but it's tough against JSU right now. So I'm picking JSU 31-13. I'm hoping Southern can get that much, because they have been shut out twice. But I think that this should be an interesting game. I don't know how long it's going to be a great game, but Southern has to bring their end of the bargain to make this game be anything worth watching. So real quick, I don't really have a whole lot to share on this, but Terry Sims was let go from Bethune-Cookman. He had an overall record of 38-39. So he's had 2 rough years the last couple of years. The 2 years they joined the SWAC, they finished, last or next to last. So, they're looking to make a change. So that's another opening in the SWAC to go along with Pine Bluff. Neither one of those are really a surprise. I think, you know, some people felt like Coach Sims would be let go this year. Some people felt like, you know, maybe he could, you know, withstand this season and get another year. But, you know, with him being gone, that's a, you know, a key thing to keep an eye out on, what Bethune-Cookman does going forward. So that's going to do it for our show. And like I said, we'll be back on Thursday with SWAC Smoke, live 6 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Sunday we'll recap the SWAC Championship and talk whatever else SWAC that we want to talk. So with that being said, I'm C. Wells, and I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.